Okay, so this week I've been thinking about multitasking. Personally, I am very much opposed to multitasking. I think it's something that we need to get away from. Like, it doesn't work at work, it doesn't work in life. It's just horrific. And the thing I've been thinking about most with it is it seems that multitasking is a way for us to get away from our life. Like that whatever is happening right here and right now is not sufficient enough, important enough for us to devote all of our time, attention, energy, heart, whatever you want to call it, to it. So we have to pretty it up or make sure that we're being productive or make sure that it's useful. And it's like, that's not helpful as a way of working. It, I think, is what's causing so much stress and burnout at work. But it's also not a good way to live life. Like, we can't really connect with another person if I'm trying to connect with you, but at the same time, I'm chatting on my computer, or if at the same time, I'm trying to like do my to-do list. And, I've been thinking of things that we know that this is true in. Food doesn't taste as good when we're going through all the fights that we wish we had had or not had. Sex isn't as good when we're making a to-do list of everything we have to do before and after. It's just, there's certain things that we know that life is not that good if we're constantly multitasking. But what about the small moments that don't seem that important to begin with? What if they have the potential to open us up in the same way that a good meal does, or a good glass of wine, or good connection with somebody we actually care about? Like, what if it's in the small moments when we're not trying to make it more than it is, that there's a potentiality for everything that we're looking for? So I thought that this would be a great theme to bring into this practice, because you can't do anything other than what I'm asking you to do. Technically you can, but we're going to see what happens. So the invitation is just to uni-task. All you have to do is do that pose. Notice if you're breathing. Notice what muscles are engaged. Notice where you can relax. And that's all the ask is for today. Okay. All right. So with that being said, before I set the timer, there was one thing I wanted to have us start with, just because it felt really good when I tried it on my body. So you're going to put your hands on the top of your sternum, and you can either just push down both hands on top of each other or spread the hands apart. But I want you to just lightly push your hands down into your sternum, lift your sternum up into your hands, and then you're going to send your jaw forward like you've got an underbite, like an extreme underbite, and then start to look up as you pull down. And we're just looking for this stretch happening across the front of your neck. So the more you send your chin forward and then maybe up, you'll feel this stretch happening on your neck. And then you might turn one ear to the right or one ear to the left, but you're just seeing how the breath can start to open up at the very beginning of the body. And when you find a good spot that feels good to you, you'll just stay there and breathe. And the more you lightly pull those hands down and push your sternum up as you reach your chin up, you'll find a nice stretch across the front, the sternoclavicular part of the neck. And then we'll go ahead and come to stillness. Release your hands and just take a moment to close the eyes, maybe roll the shoulders a little bit, and just notice how the breath is now. This little noggin thing on our head tells us that we need to do so many things to make this moment worthwhile. But your life, no matter what is happening or isn't happening, is worthwhile. And we're just going to allow ourselves to experience that in its small and its big ways. So before we start, I want you to just pay attention to your breath. Start to tone the back of your throat and constrict the breath, drawing in an audible inhalation, sending out an audible exhalation. And we're going to focus on our breath being the biggest thing that we're paying attention to throughout our practice. Yes, the body will come up. Yes, I'll ask you to do different things, but the focus, the impetus is always on the breath. Great. So I'm going to go ahead and set the timer over here on my end. We're going to keep it on 1 minute. For the first 3 minutes, they're to do whatever the heck you feel like doing. But I encourage you to just notice and pay attention to your breath. So the first 3 minutes are yours. You can use this time to do whatever feels good to you. And you're just allowing yourself the opportunity to check in. And as you're checking in, I want you to just notice, where is the mind? Anytime the mind wanders, you simply today's Align and Hold is a new one. We're focusing specifically on standing poses. So you do whatever the heck you want to do for these first 3 minutes. At some point, you might find that you want to do some cats or some cows. You might find that you want to take some eagle arms or do some gentle twists. Some of you might wish to do some toe squats, but you're just allowing yourself to connect in, checking in with the body and seeing how it's feeling, seeing how it's doing. And no matter what you're doing, can you allow yourself to bring all your attention and all your awareness to what you're doing? Can you still hear your breath? Can you still sense and feel your breath? This is our last minute here. So go ahead and finish up anything that you happen to be doing. And there is no rush, but we will come to stand. And so you'll just take your time. You've got about another 30 seconds or so before you need to be standing. So do any other final things that help you feel complete. And then as you do make your way to the top of your space, I encourage you to have both blocks to the left side of your space, and then you'll turn to face the left side of your mat. Doesn't matter. And then from here, let's go ahead and separate our feet about 3 feet apart. Go ahead and bring your hands to your hips. Turn your left toes in towards your right foot. Turn your right toes to face the top of your space. Start to bend that front knee. And then you might notice if you need to widen your feet a little bit further. From here, I want you to see if you can bend into that front knee as much as possible until it feels almost like you're sinking into the front hip, and then press out through both feet at the same time. Hug both feet in. Reach your left arm back parallel to the floor. And then start to turn your gaze over your front shoulder. Reach your right arm forward. And then see if you can soften any tension in your shoulders. Notice if you can continue to breathe. And now as we're here in this shape, warrior two, we've been here a bazillion times. I want the focus for today to be very much on where you can find more stability. So as best as you can, you're pushing out through both feet a lot, and you're hugging both feet in a lot. As best as you can, you're reaching out evenly through both arms, and yet you're softening through the shoulders. Yep. As best as you can, you're noticing if you can still hear that breath. And you're noticing if that bend is still in that front knee. Yep. And you're noticing if you're still pressing through the outside edge of that back foot. Now, we haven't really done too much to activate the ankles, so you might feel that there's a lot going on in that back foot, but are you breathing? Can you soften any tension around the neck and the shoulders? Yep. Can you find just a little bit more ability to center the gaze? Is it over the first, or rather the third finger of the front hand? Are you pulling more to the front hand or more to the back? And you're just breathing. How is the breath? Can you hear it? Can you sense it? Can you feel it? Gently exhale, straighten your front leg, lower your arms, turn both feet parallel to the short edge of your mat, and take a moment to pause. Draw the shoulder blades onto the back, lift the sternum and the heart up, and see if you can extend up through the crown. If possible, allow the palms to radiate forward and just notice what it feels like to be here. Can you sense the breath? Can you sense the energy moving into the body? Awesome sauce. You've got 2 more breath cycles here. Notice what you can soften. Draw your hands to your hips. Hug your shoulder blades onto your back. Turn your right toes in towards the left. Turn your left toes to face the back of your space. And then let's go ahead and bend into that front knee. And you'll want to see if you can widen your feet perhaps a little bit longer apart, right to left. Yep. And then you want to notice if you can bend so much into that left knee that you feel a stretch happening on the inside edge of your right thigh. Then reach back through the right hand, palm parallel to the floor. Gaze over your left shoulder and reach the left hand forward. Now, as you're here, see if you can hug both feet in, press both feet out. So finding that stability and that power in the legs, the back kneecap lifts. Soften around the shoulders. Yep. And then notice if there's tension in your jaw. And as you're here, you're just breathing. What does that outer left hip feel like? Can you feel it drawing back as you bend into that left knee? Yep. Can you press into the right pinky toe as you pull the right kneecap up? Yep. And then notice if there's more energy in that left arm, the front arm, or if you're able to have more energy come into the back arm to meet the front arm. Yeah. And then you're just breathing. And you're noticing what you notice. How is the breath working right here, right now? Where is the mind gone? How are the legs working? Can you still feel them engaged and hugging in? Yep. Got about 3 more breath cycles here. Where can you soften? Yep. How is that back hand doing? Yep. Just breathe. Keep bending into your front knee. Last breath cycle here. Go ahead and straighten the front leg. Turn both feet parallel to the short edges of the mat. Lower your arms alongside your hips. And then see if you can draw those shoulder blades onto your back. And then you'll just take a moment to pause here. Can you press into the outer edges of your pinky toes? Can you lift up through those inner arches and pull your kneecaps up? And then drop the tailbone down as the sternum lifts, softening across the face, the throat, and the jaw. Great. All right. Let's go ahead and draw our hands back to our hips. Squeeze the shoulder blades onto the back, hug the elbows in. Spin your toes out, your heels in. Yep. And then I want you to bend your knees until your knees are over the center of your second and third toes. Great. Press down into your big toes a lot. Hug your outer butt muscles in. And you can choose to stay here or you can cactus your arms. Yep. If the arms are cactus, I want you to draw your elbows slightly forward. Hug the shoulder blades onto the back and everyone lift your elbows up so they're in line with your shoulders. Great. And we're going to be here for about 2 minutes. And so we're going to pause and we're going to breathe. And the task always is to see if we can continue to bend into both knees evenly. If you can continue to breathe. Because of our arms being in this orientation to gravity, especially if our elbows are just lifted a little bit higher than our shoulders, you'll find that this causes a lot of breath to want to come into the upper chest. But can you continue to breathe deep and low? Can you continue to hear your breath? Can you continue to sense and feel your breath? And we haven't sat in goddess for a while. And so as the legs are hugging in, I want you to notice what you can soften. Yeah. Notice how you can deepen that breath. If the body gets too hot, you exhale through the mouth. And we've got 1 more minute here, and you're just pausing and you're just breathing and you're noticing what you notice. Deep breaths. Soften the jaw. Yep. If the body gets too hot, you exhale through the mouth. Otherwise, yep, you keep the lips closed. Continue to bend deep through the legs as best as you can. Press into your big toes, hug those outer hips in. Keep breathing. Got about 4 more steady breath cycles here. Notice where the gaze is. Yep. At the end of your next exhalation, straighten both your legs, lower your arms. You might fidget here just for this one because that was a crap ton, and you'll just notice what you notice. Where is the energy most alive in you? Can we just allow our awareness to stay on that sensation, on the life that is happening in this moment without trying to change or alter or distract ourselves from the life that we're living? And you're just pausing and you're breathing. And how do we keep our heart space open, even as all of that's going on? All right, let's go ahead and move on. Bring your hands to your hips. Turn your left toes in. And then you're going to turn your right toes out towards the top of your space. Start to bend into your right knee and wiggle walk your right foot towards the right and start to square your hips closer towards the top of your mat. And so you might need to adjust that back left heel. So the left heel spins back even more, the left toes spin back even, or spin forward even more. And then you're going to start to bend through that front knee. I want you to drop your tailbone down a lot. So, yep, and you're going to push into that back foot. Continue to bend into that front knee and draw your right hip back. And then everyone, as though you're a matador, your heart comes forward, your shoulder blades come back, and you might release your arms back like you are that matador, elbows slightly bent, elbows hugging in. And so you're just going to see what this feels like to let your heart lead. To be courageously forward, you're still bending into that front knee, you're still reaching back through that left heel, and that tailbone is drawing down. And then notice if the head can stay in alignment with this tailbone. So there's one long line versus a crazy back bend. And you're going to pause and you're going to breathe, and the feet are still pushing wide like you're on ice. And at the same time, you're hugging in like you're on ice. And for this next minute, you can choose to stay here happy as a clam. You might return your elbows back up to that cactus position. You might extend your arms alongside your ears, but we're continuing to bend into that front knee. We're continuing to press down through the outside edge of that back foot, and your tailbone is scooping down a lot. Tailbone is scooping down a lot. Heart and sternum are leading forward. And you might notice that if you extend more energy up through your left arm area, as you draw your right hip area back, you might feel a fun stretch going across that whole left side body, and you're breathing. And you're noticing any tension around the throat and the neck that you can soften. You're noticing any tension around your jaw and your eyeballs that you can soften. And you're just choosing to breathe. The life that you're living is perfectly wonderful as it is, no matter what is or is not happening. You've got 2 more breath cycles here. Steady your gaze as best as you can. Gently exhale, release the hands, straighten the front leg, turn both feet parallel to the short edge of your mat, and pause. And pause. And how can we keep our heart open? Any little fidgets that need to happen, see how you can breathe into them. Breathe with them, and just let the breath be steady. What is that one thing in life that you would like to have a little bit more control over, in the sense that you allow yourself to fully experience and enjoy it? Go ahead and bring your hands back to your hips. Turn your right toes to face the back of the room, the left toes to face the back of the room. And then you'll bend into your front knee, which is now your left knee. Wiggle walk the left foot to the left. Spin that right heel back a little bit more, the right toes forward a little bit more. And then first things first, push out through that back foot, straighten that back leg long. Lift through that inner right thigh and bend into that left knee. Draw your tailbone down and then lift the heart and sternum up. Great. You can choose to stay here or start to bend your elbows back even further, like a little matador, hugging the shoulder blades onto the back, hugging the shoulder blades, or rather the elbows towards each other, and reaching your heart and sternum forward. And on this side in particular, see if you can drop your tailbone even more. Yeah, there you go. And then draw that outer left hip back just a stitch. Yep. So that the inner right thigh lifts. And as crazy as this sounds, I want you to imagine that for some reason, I'm coming to poke you on the inner right thigh. You're sending that right thigh back, drawing the outer right hip forward. Yep. And you're allowing the tailbone to scoop down. And you're just pausing and you're breathing. And if you're happy here being a matador, you can continue to be a matador. Otherwise, you might sweep your arms out and cactus the elbows, or you might reach the arms alongside the ears. But we're continuing to lengthen the tailbone down. We're continuing to push out into both feet. Yeah, there you go. And hug both feet in. And you're just pausing and you're breathing. And you'll notice that with your arms in this orientation, it gives you the potential to lift the sternum. Just like we started with our hands on our sternum, you're imagining that there's a light pressure of your hand on your heart, but your heart is lifting up into it. All aspects of life are like that. They're asking your heart to lean in, to come forward, to lift up. Yeah, there you go, Jenny. And you're just pausing and you're breathing. That front knee is as bent as it wishes to be as that outer right hip comes back, and you've got about 3 more breath cycles here. And you're just pausing and you're just breathing and you're just pausing and you're breathing. Noticing where you can soften, what you can let go of. The end of your next exhale, you'll go ahead and lower your arms, straighten your legs, turn both feet to face the short edges of your mat. And then I want you to just take a moment to pause and breathe. Again, if you're feeling lightheaded at any point in time, I want you to bend your knees and pop a squat. Even as you're standing here, I want a slight bend in your knees so you don't get too dizzy. Great. And we're going to be here for just a breath cycle or two. Awesome sauce. Great. Now, people at home, great. It does look like you all have a block in front of you, so we are good to go. What we're going to do first is draw our hands to our hips. Hug your shoulder blades onto your back. Bend your knees slightly, press out into your pinky toes and lift your sternum up. As you exhale, let's hinge forward halfway, 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 halfway. Great. Some of you will release your left hand down to the floor or a block directly underneath your face. All of us will bring our right hand to our butt. So first thing we're going to do is I want you to imagine that we're football players. So I know we're still in hockey season, but we're going to imagine we're football players. So I want you to push down with that left hand a lot. Lift your spine parallel to the floor. Great. From here, you can start to rotate your rib cage, your spine towards the right, but your tailbone is reaching straight back. Your legs can straighten as much as they want to, but you're pushing down into that left hand a lot, and then you're rotating towards the right. Your tailbone is reaching back, your crown is reaching forward, and then pay attention to what's happening in your throat. Is your sternum coming towards your neck, and then your neck drawing slightly towards your sternum so that your left ear can be long, and you're just pausing and you're breathing. Awesome sauce. You can choose to stay here. You might choose instead to bend that right knee and then start to rotate the right arm up, push down into the left arm even more and rotate even further to the right. Now, all of you, see if you can pull back isometrically with that left hand, pull your heart and sternum forward, and you rotate as much as you want. Yep, and you're doing good and you're breathing. You're doing good and you're breathing. You're drawing the low belly in. Yep. And you're rotating around that left shoulder blade only, left ribs only. Belly in. There we go. And you're just pausing and you're breathing. And you're pausing and you're breathing. And you're seeing if you can find more length on the left side, left neck. Yep. Awesome. Take your last 2 breath cycles here. See if you can lower your left toes to the floor. Awesome. Gently lower the hand down, both hands underneath your shoulders. Come back to that football player position. Bend your knees, sit your butt back, sit your sternum forward. And you're going to see how this feels. So isometrically, I want you to pull your hands back, press out into your feet and pull your sternum forward. And then see if you can draw the chin towards the chest and bend the knees as much as you want to find a little bit different outer hip engagement. Great. And you're just pausing and you're breathing. One long line from tail through the center of your head. Yep. Awesome sauce. And you're just breathing. How does this feel? What sensations are happening right here in this moment? Deep breaths, guys. Great. Let's go to the other side. So now the left hand comes onto the pelvis, right hand directly underneath you. And the first thing you're doing is finding a straight spine. Yep. And so you're reaching the crown forward, the tailbone back, and then you can start to rotate towards the left. And so as you rotate towards the left, I want you to pay attention to what's happening in that right hand. So you're pushing down into that right hand a lot. You're isometrically drawing it back. Yep. And then you're rotating just around the ribs. Yeah. And you'll notice how it gives you a very different sensation to push down, pull back, and rotate just around the upper rib cage. Yep. And you're pausing and you're breathing. And as you're continuing to do this, we're drawing that outer right hip back. So that's the hip away from where we're rotating so that the rotation can happen. Yep, there you go. Just around the rib cage. And you're pausing, and you can choose to stay here, or you might straighten that left arm up. You might bend the left knee, and you might shift some more weight over onto the left side-ish of the body. And if you do that, you're still drawing that outer right hip straight back, and you're still trying to rotate around the upper rib cage. And then, as always, your navel is coming into the back body. Breathing into the back body as much as you can to create that support as you rotate around the upper ribs. Yeah. And then are you breathing? How's the breath? How's the breath? How is the sensation in the body? You got 2 more breath cycles here. Where can you soften? There you go. Where can you release? Yeah. Gently exhale, release the hands. Now, keeping the weight on your legs, I want you to walk your hands as far forward as you want. So this is our version of down dog for today. So the weight stays on your feet. So we want to draw our hips straight back. And then some of you will put your hands on the floor. Some of you will just come to the tips of your fingertips. But I want you to push down and forward with your hands. Keep all the weight back in your feet. Pull your kneecaps up and you're pressing onto the knife edges of your feet. Does that feel okay? Okay, and so you're just trying to traction out your own spine. So the more that the weight actually stays in your legs, ironically enough, the more that you'll have that capacity to create space. And you're just pausing and you're breathing and you're pushing down to the knuckles if the hands are on the floor, but you're keeping the heels with the hands light. And you're pressing on the night side edge of your feet. Awesome sauce. Very gently, you'll start to bend your knees. Walk your hands back so all the weight is once again into your feet. Yep. And then I want you to take a moment to pause. Hands come to your hips. Draw your shoulder blades onto your backs. Bend your knees back to that football player. Draw your spine parallel-ish to the floor. Hug the shoulder blades onto your back. Scoop the belly in. Yep. And then you'll inhale slower than you want to come up to vertical. Once you get up to vertical, if you're feeling dizzy, chin comes to the chest. And you take 3 audible breaths here, straightening those legs, just feeling how you feel. Yep, just feeling how you feel. Great. Last 2 breath cycles here, big audible breaths. There we go. All right, let's go ahead and reach down and grab one of your blocks. Let's put this block into your right hand. Draw your left hand to your left hip. Turn your left toes to face the top of your space. Turn your right toes out. And we're going to come into a triangle pose. But I want you to first bend your front knee and square your left hip towards the top of your mat. Plant that block outside of your right foot. Yep, keep your left hand on your left hip. Keep your hand on the block for a moment. And then from here, let's go ahead and straighten that front leg long. And I want you to draw your outer right hip back first. Draw your outer left hip forward and then reach your heart and sternum forward. Now from here, you're going to push into that right hand a lot. And then you're going to start to rotate your right ribs under, your left ribs on top, and you'll come into Trikonasana this way. From here, I want you to push down into that back foot a lot. Push down into the front foot a lot. Hug both those feet together. And then notice if you can pull your kneecap up on that front leg. Yep, and then you might start to reach your left arm up towards the sky and rotate through the rib cage. And we're still pushing into the big toe mound of your right foot. You're still pushing into the pinky toe mound of your back foot. And then you might notice that you can squeeze your outer left glute. So you squeeze the outer left glute and press down into your left hip, and you'll find a nice stretch on the left side. And then everyone lift your right ear away from the floor a smidge. Yep. And then you'll see if you can pause, and you'll see if you can breathe, and you'll see if you can pause, and you'll see if you can breathe. So I want you to reach your sternum forward and lean back here. There. Does that feel different in your neck? Okay. And then you're just going to pause and you're going to breathe. Awesome sauce. Go ahead and bend your front knee. Draw that block to the inside edge of your front foot. Sweep your left arm alongside your ears and come into Utthita Parsvanasana, extended side angle. Yep. And just as we did at the very beginning with Warrior 2, I want you to see how far you can bend into that front knee. And then at the same time, come out of the shape just a little bit by hugging your feet towards each other and pushing out a lot. From there, find more length on that underside body, the right side body. And then just like we did with that twist, you're rotating your right ribs under, your left ribs on top. And you're pausing and you're breathing and you're pausing and you're breathing. And you're just noticing what this feels like. Laura, lift your right ear away from the floor just a smidge for me. There you go. Great. Last breath cycle here. Inhale, come up to Warrior 2. Awesome. Go ahead and reach for that block. Remove that block. Turn both feet parallel to the short edges of your mat. And just take a moment, either with block in hand or not, but just notice how you feel here. At any point, if you get dizzy, bend your knees, put your hands on the tops of your thighs, and just take a moment to pause and breathe. And you're just checking in. You're seeing how you're doing. Awesome sauce. All right. Just breathe. Notice what you notice. Where can you let go? How can we allow our lives to just unfold for us instead of trying to narrate, control, direct, manipulate every single part of it? Great. All right, let's go to the other side. So bring that block into your left hand. If it's not, go ahead and turn your right toes in to face the back of your space, left toes out. And then you'll try to just square the right hip towards the back of the space, and you'll hinge forward at the hips, lowering that block and hands to the floor outside your front foot. And as best as you can, I want you to see if you can do a micro bend into the front knee. Draw your outer left hip back, your outer right hip forward. Push down into that left hand a lot to lift up through the left armpit. And then start to wrap your left ribs under, your right ribs on top, and rotate your chest towards the right. Yep. And then from here, you might straighten that top arm. Once we find ourselves there, I want you to push down into both feet a lot and hug both feet in a lot. You'll notice that if you can bring a slight bend into that front knee, and then you can push down into that big toe mound of your front foot and draw that outer left hip straight back. You'll find that you can then find crazy sensation happening on the right outer side hip body if you push into your right pinky toe, squeeze your right butt cheek area. And then everyone lift your left ear away from the floor a little bit. There you go, without sort of doing a weird jutting neck thing. And you're just pausing, and you're breathing, and you're pausing, and you're breathing. Yep. Keep pushing your big toe. Yep. Great. Last breath cycles here. Slight bend into front knee to keep from hyperextending. Yep. Awesome. At the end of your next exhale, you'll bend your front knee, slide the block to the inside edge of your left foot, sweep your right arm alongside your ear, if that's the variation you're taking. And then I want you to see again, how low can you bend into that front knee? Yep. Once you've gotten to your depth, you push out into both feet. You hug both feet in a lot. Maybe push down into that left arm, left hand, to lift the left ribs away from the left thigh and rotate them under. And then maybe you can peer underneath your right armpit, right shoulder. And you're just pausing and you're breathing and you're noticing how this feels here. Where do you notice the awareness of your body most being drawn to? Is it to the legs? Do you feel like you'd best be served by breathing deeper? Is it in the upper arm? Is it in the ribs? Where does your awareness most wish to reside? Awesome sauce. On your next in-breath, let's come back up to Warrior 2, Virabhadrasana 2. Go ahead and straighten your front leg long. Remove that block, turn both feet to parallel to face the short edge of your mat, and then you'll just take a moment to pause here. Take a moment to pause here. I want you to breathe. And again, if you get dizzy, just bend your knees, plant your hands on top of your thighs. And sometimes it's not dizzy, but it feels like you're not getting enough oxygen. So if that feels like you're not getting enough oxygen, bend your knees, put your hands on the tops of your thighs, and just stay in that little position there. Awesome sauce. We got a few more minutes. 2 more minutes here. No, a few more breaths here. That'd be bad. All right, let's go ahead and add on. Reach down and grab that block with your right hand. And then you're going to turn your left toes to face the top of the space, right toes to face the top of the space. Great. So what you're going to do here is I encourage you to put that block on its tallest setting first. You're going to bend into your right knee, and we want to see if we can square our left hip as much towards the top of our space as possible. That right block is going to come in front and slightly outside of your right foot. You're going to shift your weight forward to lift the back leg parallel-ish to the floor. Highly encourage you to take a moment to first square the hips, and then you're going to open and stack your left hip on top of the right. Activate that back foot as though you're still pushing into the floor. Bend the front knee as much as you need to. Keep pressing into your front big toe. That's the right big toe. Keep pressing out through your back big toe, your left big toe, and lift that inner left thigh as parallel-ish to the floor as possible. Squeeze that left glute. Squeeze that left glute. Awesome. You can choose to stay here. Some of you might start to reach the top arm up towards the sky. And we're playing with how we can be in what we're experiencing. Your heart is still coming forward. The shoulder blades are still hugging onto the back, and you're bending into that front knee. Life has its crazy moments just like this, where they're complex in and of themselves. I'm sure right now you're not thinking of your to-do list. I'm sure you're not thinking about what you're going to have for dinner. Hopefully you're not thinking about food or sex, but you're just present on what's going on right here, right now. You've got 3 more steady breath cycles. Keep lifting through that inner left thigh. Yep. Keep pressing back through that left big toe. The end of your next 2 exhalations, you'll slowly bend the right knee. You'll carefully step that left foot back, and you'll come back up to vertical. You'll turn both feet to face the short edge of the long, or be parallel to the long edge of the mat, and you'll just take a moment to pause and you'll breathe. Notice what is alive and alert. Now, to do these type of poses, you maybe notice that all of your body had to work to do that. Very appendicular, sneaky core work. Really kind of is actually. So you're just going to be here and you're just noticing. Where can you soften? Yep. Keep a slight bend in your knees so we don't get hyperextended there. Great. And you're doing great. And you're just pausing and you're breathing and you're being right here, right now. And you don't have to force the body to be still necessarily. If there's something that it feels like it needs to do, by all means do that. But just notice if there's the tendency to fidget out of discomfort versus presence versus intuition. All right, let's bring that block into our left hand. Then we're going to turn our right toes in towards the left toes out towards the back of our space. And you want to see if you can start by just trying to square that right hip towards the back of your space. Then you'll bend into that front knee, reach forward with that block, planting the left hand outside of your left foot. And then you'll shift your weight forward very deliberately, very conscientiously, pushing down into the big toe mound. And I encourage you to keep that bottom knee bent as much as you need to. Reach back through that back foot as best as you can, so both legs are active, and then stack that right hip on top of the left. Now, as you do that, you're going to need to reach your crown forward, your sternum forward, the shoulder blades onto the back, and you continue to bend into that front knee. Nice job, guys. And we are free to stay here happy as a clam, or you might choose to extend that top arm. But your back leg is more active than you think it needs to be. Your sternum is super active coming forward. Your crown is super active coming forward. And everyone's lifting, through that inner right thigh a crap ton. And then you're noticing if you're breathing. 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 That's looking good, everybody. Back foot is super active, like you're pressing into the floor. Yep, yep, yep. How open can your heart stay? You've got 2 more breath cycles here. At the end of your second exhalation, you'll slowly bend the right knee. You'll carefully step that left foot back. You'll come up through vertical. You'll straighten the front leg, turn both feet parallel to the short edges of the mat. And then you'll just take a moment to pause here. And if at all you get dizzy, you bend your knees, you plant your hands on your thighs, and you take a moment to pause and breathe there. We're just seeing how we can be still as best as possible. Not trying to force it, but just allowing ourselves to notice when we fidget out of discomfort more so than need. All right. So as awkward as this is going to sound, I need you guys to go to malasana. So you might stay as you are facing the short or long edge of your mat. You might turn to face the short edge of your mat, but you're going to pop a squat in malasana. And I encourage you to separate your feet as far apart as it feels comfortable for you. I want you to make sure your toes are in line with the center of your knees. And then you're going to see if in this squatty position, you can still keep activation in your legs. So you're pushing down into the big toes, you're hugging them in. Those of us that are pretty mobile and can pop into this and sit here, I want you to see if you can lift your butt a millimeter away from the floor, just a little bit more activation. And then you're going to see if that sternum can lift forward. We're going to pause, and we're going to breathe, and we're going to see how this is going. And then notice if the feet can still continue to descend into the floor, if the toes are scrunching up away from the floor. Awesome, Sash, you got 3 more breath cycles here. Notice where you can soften in the face, soften in the jaw. Great. At the end of this next exhalation, you will gently make your way onto your butt. I do encourage you to sit up on your blanket and spin around and face the long edge of your mat. So you can turn. We're just going to sit for a moment in Dandasana staff pose. Sorry, yep, what did I say? Long edge. Face the wall, face the sun. I don't know where it is right now. Okay. Yeah. So, so as we're here, I want you to make sure that your knees, your hips, your knees, and your ankles are all in one line. We're going to push out through the big toe mounds, pull back through the fourth and fifth toes, and then your hands can either be right here alongside your hips, they can be further forward, they can be a little bit back, but you're pulling the floor back, you're pulling the heart forward, you're sending your butt back, and you're lifting your sternum up. And then you can soften or close your gaze down if you'd like, but we're just seeing what it feels like to really be this vertical through our spine, to be this strong in our seat. Great. Awesome. And then we're just going to pause and we're going to breathe. And you're going to pause and you're going to breathe. And you're going to notice. This is literally, I think, the most boring pose in yoga that we don't spend a lot of time in. It really is. I mean, Dandasana, not that exciting, but there's a lot of stuff that's going on. How much work does it take to keep your spine erect? How does it take work to be active and alert in every facet of your life? It sometimes can seem a little less than stellar or a little less than exciting. All right, let's go ahead and bend your right knee. Plant your right foot on the floor, and then you're going to externally rotate the thigh. You can draw that heel a little closer to your pelvis if you'd like, and then the hands will come right back into that position. And again, you're pulling your heart forward, you're pulling the hands back. Some of you will stay right here. Some of you will hinge at your hips and come forward. It depends on what feels appropriate to you. Wherever you happen to be, we're still pressing out through that big toe mound a lot, and we're pulling back through the fourth and fifth toes, and we're pausing and we're breathing. And it's almost like you're drawing your sternum forward. You're sending the top of your sacrum forward towards that right heel. Yep. And then you're softening. Yeah, there you go. Any tension around your shoulders. And so we've done this shape essentially. This is just warrior two, an extended side angle, but it looks different in this orientation when you're folded over your legs. But we've done this shape. And just notice how it feels. Great. At the end of your next exhalation, you're going to gently walk your spine back up to vertical. You'll release that right leg and send it forward to meet its mate. And then again, hands might come forward, hands might be back a little bit this time. And if you've chosen that, again, the shoulder blades hug onto the back, the sternum, the heart lift. You push down into your heels. You push down into your calves. Yep, and it's almost like you want to push down into your thighs too, but your knees are like, nope, I don't want to go. So then there's that activation around the kneecap. And then heart and shoulders lift. Sternum lifts. Either gaze is down or inward. It's totally what feels best to you. You're just checking in. And just noticing. And it's funny because boredom is one of those things that we don't allow ourselves enough time to do, but apparently that's where creativity comes from. You gotta be bored first, and you can't necessarily be bored if you're not fully present to begin with. All right, let's go ahead and bend our left knee, plant the left foot on the floor, and then let's externally rotate that left thigh. And then from here, you might bring hands back forward again, and you're just clawing the floor back, clawing your sternum forward, happy to stay here. You might start to crawl forward, but again, it's that sternum coming forward, it's those hands pulling back, it's that top of sacrum coming forward towards that left foot. And again, we're still pressing out through that left big toe mound, like that. And we're pulling, right big toe mound, and we're pulling the right fourth and fifth toes back. And then you're just pausing and you're breathing and you're pausing and you're breathing. Yep, and then notice where you can soften. Where around your neck or your shoulders or your mouth is there tension that you don't need? Great. Gently exhale and start to walk your hands back. Start to bring your spine up to vertical. Release your left leg long in front of you. And then you might just bring your hands back behind you. You might bring your butt off the blanket. It depends on how high up you are. And then we're going to bend both knees and plant the feet on the floor. And you're going to do the laziest windshield wipers ever. And you're going to do this for about a minute. So if you decide to go one way and then you want to hang out there for a while, you can hang out there for a while, but we're doing this for a minute. So you feel how that feels for you. Laziest windshield wipers ever. And you're noticing what it feels like as you internally and then externally rotate one thigh and then the other. Is it? That's entertaining. Then we'll go ahead and come back to stillness, back to center, and you're gonna lay all the way down on your backs. So do you guys need to flip around? I don't know. Okay. All right. So then you're gonna lay down on your backs. And I want you to make sure you have a block somewhere nearby. Whoops, yeah. I got you, Erica. All right. And the first thing you're going to do is just be still. Just be still. What does it feel like? Can you notice how the shoulders feel? How does the butt feel? How do the two halves of the hips feel? How do the feet feel? How does the breath feel? How does it feel when you fully let yourself alone? Like, we did all that stuff, require that you be fully active and alert. And then what happens when we let ourselves be fully alone? All right. So some of you will choose to plant a block between your upper and inner thighs. Some of you will not, but we'll all walk our feet hip distance apart. And we want to make sure our head is flat on the floor. And you're just going to take about 4 of these. You'll inhale, push your feet into the floor, lift your hips up. And you'll exhale and slowly roll down the spine, putting your butt back down. And you've got 4 of these. And we're hugging into that block. Can we try a different way? Let's try that. And you're just seeing, how are the feet? How are the shoulders? Do you notice that as you do a subsequent version, does it allow you to get a little bit more back bend happening? And then this next time that you go up, we're going to stay. And I want you to see if you can walk your shoulder blades underneath. You might just grab the outside edges of your mat. You might interlace your hands. You might grab the feet. But we're going to squeeze that block for dear life. We're going to push down into our big toes. I want you to think of sliding your shin bones, your tailbones forward, and at the same time, sucking your heels back. And then everyone, see if you can press more into the upper outer arms. Yep. If you can push more into the back center of the skull between the ears, and draw, yep, the sternum closer to the chin. Yeah. And we're going to squeeze that block, and we're going to breathe, and we're going to squeeze that block, and we're going to breathe, and we're going to squeeze that block, and we're going to breathe. I'm going to squeeze that block, and we're going to breathe. Squeeze that block, and you're going to breathe. You've got 2 more breath cycles here. Squeeze that block, and you're going to breathe. Last one, squeeze that block, and you're going to breathe. At the end of this exhale, release the hands, untuck the shoulders, bring the pelvis back down to the floor, and pause and be still. Pause and be still. Pause and be still. Out of curiosity, if the hands are on the floor, notice what it feels like to turn the palms up. Notice what that does to the shoulders, to the heart space, to the back body. And then you're just paying attention to what it feels like in your butt, what it feels like in your feet. Are both feet evenly rooting into the floor? Are they pressing into the floor at the same place? All right. From here, go ahead and remove that block. And some of you may choose to just reach one leg up to the sky and then the other. And you might stay right here. Some of you might choose to put a block underneath your sacrum, but I encourage you to pick whichever option seems the least extreme. We're going to be here for 2 minutes. And as best as you can, allow those palms to face up. You can widen your hands as far away from your hips as you want until it feels like there's space on your shoulder blades on your back body. And then you're breathing. So we spent all of that time standing on our feet. And our feet often don't tell us, hey, you owe me. They just show up for us. I think it's kind of similar to how our highest self is that thing that's working in the background, unseen, often working in ways that don't seem that exciting, but it's helping us to reveal what is true for us. It's helping us to figure out what's best for us. We have to just take a moment to just sometimes check in with that, to allow ourselves to get quiet and still and focused enough so that we can see and sense and feel it. And that's what we get from uni-tasking. We're allowing ourselves to see more clearly because there aren't so many things distracting us. All right. Very gently, start to bend your knees. Plant one foot and then the other foot on the floor. If you have elevated your butt on something, please engage the backs of the hips before you lift your butt up and remove the block. And then from here, once the pelvis comes back down onto the floor, I encourage you to notice if there's any final last shapes or shape that you would like to explore before we set ourselves up for Shavasana. And again, you're checking in based upon having spent all this time just uni-tasking. So now that we've spent all this time just focused on what we're doing, it gives us the ability to know our next right step. And so whatever feels like it's most interesting or most exciting for you is perhaps the thing that you would most be fulfilled by. And you've got 1 more minute doing whatever the heck you happen to have been doing or not doing. And then when you feel complete, you will make your way to your final resting pose. I feel stable. Look at Studio Roberta. All right. And so as we settle into our final shape, first invitation is first and foremost, get comfortable. So I want you to fidget and wiggle around until you feel like you're in a spot where you can just stay. Being able to focus on one thing at a time really requires that we feel stable and supported. So that's your first task. So once you feel like you've got your fidgets and your wiggles out, and you feel like you're warm enough for the space that you're in, the next thing that we'll do is just start to tap into our breath. So I want you to just exhale all the breath from your mouths. Yep. And then we'll take a big breath in and a big breath out. Great. And we'll build on that. So you'll take a big breath in at the top of the inhalation. You'll hold the breath for a couple beats. And then a big breath out. And then we'll go ahead and we'll take a big breath in. You'll hold the breath at the top a couple beats. You'll sip in a little bit more breath. And then you'll exhale and let it out. And we'll repeat that 2 more times. So you'll take a big breath in. You'll hold the breath at the top. You'll sip in a bit more air, maybe hold that, maybe sip in a little bit more air, and then exhale, let it all go. Yep. And our last one, we'll take a big breath in. You'll hold the breath a couple beats. You'll sip in a bit more breath, maybe hold that, maybe sip in a little bit more, maybe hold that, and then exhale, let it all go. And then just allow the breath to return to an involuntary state. Maybe it stays long and deep. Maybe it changes. And we'll start by doing just a scan of the body. And so you'll start at the top of your head. And I really want you to imagine that for some reason you're being Xeroxed. So that light beam comes from the top of your head and it slowly scans over your body. So as it goes over the forehead and the back of the head, the eyebrows and the back of the head, the nose and the cheekbones and the back of the head, the lips, the jaw, the back of the head, the front of the throat, the back of the throat, across the top of the shoulders, the back of the shoulders, the front of the chest, the back ribs, the front of the arms, the back arms. And so the scan is going down and over the front of the heart and the back of the ribs, the middle of the upper arm, the back of the arm. And you just continue on this way, scanning the body, the front of the body and the back of the body. And there's nothing more to do than just simply allow your awareness to touch the front, the back of the body as you work your way down. Eventually, you'll make your way to the abdomen, the low back, the pubic bone, and the tailbone, the fronts of the thighs and the backs of the thighs, the kneecaps and the knee pits, the shin bones and the calves, tops of the ankles, backs of the ankles, tops of the feet, sole of the feet, tops of the toes and the toe mounds. And once you've done that scan, you'll again inhale into the torso, filling the torso with breath. And the exhale will send the energy out through the legs, out through the feet. And you'll just do 2 more like that, filling the top of the torso, top of the body with breath. And then exhaling out through the limbs, the legs, the toes. Filling the top of the torso, top of the body with breath. And exhaling through the legs, through the pelvis, through the feet. And then for today, our awareness will go to wherever the breath feels most easy for you. And easy can be an arbitrary. It might be where it feels like the breath is easier for you to connect with, even if the breath isn't easy per se. But it also might be where the breath literally is flowing without effort. So whichever one of those speak most clearly to you, your awareness goes there. And you just allow your awareness to rest at that part of the body as the body breathes. And you'll be here for the next few moments or so on your own. And I'll mind the time and let you know when it's time to come out. Return your awareness to your breath. As you come back to your breath, just take a moment to check in, to notice what you notice. If there's any part of you that's longing to linger in this shape, by all means, please stay here. When you are ready to move forward, allow small, gentle movement to come back into your physical form. And those that are in stillness, stay as long as you'd like. Those that are in movement, you'll gently start to make your way over to one of your sides. And when you find yourself on one of your sides, just take a few moments to breathe there. So, like maybe 3 or 4 breath cycles. And you just pause and you breathe. After you've taken about 3 or 4 breath cycles on your side, you'll slowly roll your chest more towards the floor, press into your top hand, and draw yourself to a tall, comfortable seat facing the top of your space. And as usual, I do encourage you to take the opportunity to sit tall and to sit well. In the first few moments that you're there, please go ahead and make sure you're comfortable. Fidget around in any way that you need so that it feels like you can sit in this moment. And then let the heart come forward, supported by those shoulders, the sternum lift up. And we'll just take 3 breath cycles here to complete. And so you're just noticing what it feels like to be still and to just breathe in this moment. At the end of your 3rd exhalation, your choice of where to plant the hands. Maybe hand comes to heart, one comes to belly. Maybe both hands stack on top of heart. Maybe you come to Anjali Mudra, but you go wherever you feel like you wish to go. And we'll take one collective breath, followed by one collective Om. Gently exhale all the breath from your mouths. Take a big breath in. Audible breath out. Inhale for Om. Join if you'd like. Om. To that light, to that breath, and to that sound, we bow. Namaste. Awesome.